anybody qualified, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what
Won't
I'm
be
wondering.
anybody
If
qualified.
she got indicted as a president, then who's gonna step in as her vice president to become the next president?
All right, let's figure it out on air.
Yeah, I have no idea. I really have no idea who that could be.
Go.
Hello, Las Vegas. This is Rolando on Face the Tribune. Remember, if you have nothing to worry about, if you are not doing anything wrong, you can face the Tribune. But if you don't, you will not be happy facing the Tribune. We are here to expose everything we can and try to make our community more clean, more decent than anybody else. We want to be the example of good community, good government. It's a hard work to do, but you know, and of course with me today is always my co-host, Mr. Producer, Mr. Clark Philly, and my guest of honor today is the future Congress on District 3, Mr. Kerry Bauer, which is running for that position at the present time. Welcome to Face the Tribune. This is the first time I know you've been in Radio Tribune before, but first time that you give me the honor of having you in my humble radio show. And but before we start with you, Mr. Bauer, if you allow me, I need to thank a few people. I've been going through a lot of personal problems at home, and I have people like the Clark County coroner called me, and County Commissioner Chairman Steve Sisolok, Larry Brown, and other people then have, of course, my friends here in the Tribune, and I want to thank everybody for the courtesy and the prayers and everything else. And now that I say that, I like to welcome you again. And my first question is for you is, why running? You already run before, right?
I have actually run for president in this election cycle. I have not run for Congress.
And this president? And
This president,
this circle?
that is correct. That is correct. We talked a little bit about that with Ed on my last. First of all, let me say thank you for getting in touch with me. Thank you for the nice article that you wrote and included my name. I certainly appreciate that.
Well, I thought it was a surprise to me to find a candidate, then have the courtesy to write a note and say, thank you for having me. You know, you don't find that. Most of the candidates, they think they are better than the citizens, and definitely they don't care for the media. But whatever you do care or you don't care, you have the courtesy to say, hey, thank you for giving me the opportunity to have the microphone in my hand and say what I want to say.
Well, when I first met the future Congressman Bowers, he impressed me overwhelmingly compared to the other candidates.
I know
because he was just far, far and above all the other people as far as qualifications go. His experiences, what he's done in life, my God, it's just night and day. And I say that honestly. I'm not trying to give you a big head. You know what you are. I mean, my God, it's just overwhelming compared to the other candidates.
And beside all that, I believe that you have served the country in the armed forces, and I wanted to thank you for that particular specific issue. I always try to thank the people that serve the country, that fight for us and give us the opportunity to have almost a free country, and the little bit of a freedom that we are enjoying now, that we will not enjoy if we have anybody else but Donald Trump and the presidency. But you have been
30 years in the military.
30 years.
Air Force.
You have been in
flying
there.
around.
You have put your mouse where you put your words where your mouth is. You know, and I mean, why Congress? How long you been in Nevada?
I've been in Nevada. I actually came here the first time for the military. 1983, which was the first year the water actually went over the spillways here in that lake that keeps getting
Not anymore.
lower and
What water?
lower. I was here for 5 years as an instructor in the prestigious fighter weapons school that we had at Nellis Air Force Base, now just called the Weapons School because it includes more than fighter aircraft. So I was here for 5 years with that program and went away with military jobs and this and that and the other. But I do have children and grandchildren here, and yeah, they live here. I have a son who is a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department officer, and also a son-in-law who is with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police as well. I was brought back here because after I retired in 2006, my wife and I were living in Florida. I'd retired out of Eglin Air Force Base. And
Who want to live with all those people over there?
we actually loved the area. We really did. It was, we had about 5 military bases around us, so it was a military-friendly community. No
What
doubt.
town were you in?
I was actually in Destin, Florida, which is a little peninsula that sticks out there about 4 miles off the coast, and with the Gulf about a half mile away, and then
That's the right side of Florida. That's the good weather over there.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people call it Southern
Not so
Alabama.
muggy. Right, not
Because
so
of its
muggy over
location,
there.
Yeah. Well, we came back in 2011, and I have purchased a home. It's just 2 doors from my daughter, and my son just lives around the corner from that. So we're all in the same neighborhood, and that's what's brought me back. But obviously, this is a place that I've been a resident. I became a resident and a legal resident of the state in 1983 when I came here. And I remained a resident up until I became a resident of Florida in 99, and then changed that again when we moved back here to be closer to kids and grandkids.
What make you run for president?
Well, I tell you,
That's a big task.
it is a big task. A lot of people say, that sounds pretty ridiculous for you to do something like that, but it's just a little bit of a story, if you'll indulge me for just a moment.
Of course.
In 2010, my wife a little bit before that, in 2008, I became very much involved with an organization called Americans for Fair Taxation, who was sponsoring the National Retail Sales Tax, which is otherwise known as the Fair Tax. And with the fair tax, it was one of those things that I became so heavily involved with that I became pretty much what you'd call an expert on the legislation that we have for the fair tax in Congress. That's actually only 131 pages of legislation, probably one of the shortest bills that we have in Congress today, designed to replace over 78,000 pages of the current Internal Revenue Code, the various subchapters, or subtitles, I should say, the Internal Revenue Code. I became very much involved with that, and to the point that, like I say, I really knew the legislation well, and I've actually made additions to that legislation in the past, and was invited before its last submission by the co-sponsor, or not the co-sponsor, but the actual sponsor, who is Rob Woodall out of District 7, Georgia, to do the review of that legislation before it goes forward again in Congress. So I got very much involved in taxes. And my wife and I, in 2010, we up and sold our house there in Destin, Florida, and we bought a diesel motor coach. We were going to travel the country. Well, no sooner did I move into that motor coach and still doing things on the road with the fair tax and speaking in such venues as this and talking around the country from the coach. I may be doing a radio show in Idaho and that sort of thing. And I was inspired to start looking at more than just tax legislation. Next thing I know, I'm looking at the illegal immigration issue. I'm looking at healthcare. I'm looking at Social Security, the budget, all these other things. And I began researching them. And I spent 3 years researching each one of those major problems, issues that we have in America today, and all of them kind of with, in many cases, I'm going to say, without constitutional merit and certainly without economic principle, and started looking at solutions for each one of those issues that had to meet those requisites. They had to be, whatever I came up with in a solution, had to have constitutional merit, and it had to have economic principle. And my economic principles fall back on, I've been a former business owner too for a while there in Florida, as well as I have a master's degree in business administration. So
What kind of business do you have?
I had a business where, while I was in the military, I put together a program where I was going around the country teaching radar theory and radar systems, as well as infrared theory and infrared systems, and how to counter those particular types of systems. I was doing that with the military, going around teaching engineers and whatnot around the country, and I continued doing that when I left the military, providing training back to the military as well as to defense industry in those particular subjects. So anyhow, we hit the road, I put these things together, and little did I know, you just created a platform. And I was always inspired to only run for one thing with that platform, and that was the office of president. Now, I knew the challenges would be absolutely incredible. I mean, even if you have a lot of money, it's incredible, right? But I had a message that I could share, and I want to share that. And we came up with a theme, too, that turned out to be the right thing for the right message. And the theme of our campaign was Restore America's Blessings. And little did I know that that word blessings, at the time I selected it, is in the preamble of our Constitution of the United States, and it's also included in the preamble of the state of Nevada's Constitution. But my wife and I, we traveled this country for 25 months sharing that message. I spoke to 10% of the Republican Central Committees in the state of Iowa. We have done parades in Florida, and we have spoken to Tea Party groups, for example, in Tacoma, Washington. From one end of the country to the other we spoke. And everywhere that we had the opportunity to speak, just as you're giving me that opportunity today, people liked the message. What I could not get was national media attention, and without that media attention, I could not get those bigger audiences I need. And I think we talked about this a little bit last time I was here, Clark. We actually ran my campaign up until last October when I got out of the campaign. I want people to know I was a federally registered candidate. I wasn't just somebody that said, hey, I'm going to run. And in fact, I announced via YouTube in September of 2013 my candidacy. And then in April of 2014, I met the requisites to be a candidate for the office of president and filed with that. But in the meantime, a year later, what does our national media do? Our national media goes on the air, every one of them, and said in March that Senator Cruz is the first Republican to declare for the office of president. That was a totally fabricated story.
What a surprise.
It's a lie. Every bit of it was a totally fabricated story. And when they continued to announce,
shocked if it wasn't.
you know, like Cruz, when they said Cruz, I mean, not Cruz.
You didn't call them? And
Oh yeah, I write all the time. Yeah. I'm sure that they see Kerry Bowers and that gets rejected right away. But here's the things to get out of this is when they announced him as the first, he was actually the 55th. But the same thing happens in the Democrat Party. Secretary Clinton was actually the 34th. She was not the first as so announced. And for example, going back to the RNC, when the media had decided who the 17 would be that they would officially recognize, we were already nearly 200 Republican candidates. But all of those candidates, some of them do it just because they can do it. It's easy to do. There was almost 200. In fact, there's almost 2,000 presidential candidates out there today. But obviously, none of them really, very few of them made it. Well, it's not just qualification, but did they eventually get on ballots? And we only saw a few people get, but how did they get to those ballots? They got to be on the state ballots because the media would only recognize them, calling them the first or the second or the third. So the media, and this is one of the things I like to go around and talk with people about, and will continue to do after this campaign's over, is to explain to them that we did not select Trump, we did not select Hillary Clinton. Those candidates were selected for us by the media and corroborated by the national committees.
You think the media selected
Donald
Trump?
Hey,
Donald Trump is the less...
Donald Trump has gotten, what did they say, between $2 and $3 billion in free media press? I'll give you an example.
That doesn't mean, let me tell you, the media covered that Donald Trump had. I don't think it was that beneficiary to him.
While he was covering Donald Trump, whom every time, and I'm going to be supporting Mr. Trump coming out of this convention, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I hope
But
so.
every time that they were giving airtime to Mr. Trump, there were candidates like me that actually had real constitutional solutions, economically principled, that are being dismissed, not only by him, but by the Republican National Committee, who stands to be as corrupt, in my opinion, as does the media in their corruption.
So I assume that you don't have the support of the Republican Party.
Apparently I do not. Well, I'm not going to say in this race, because in this particular race, we have not seen who am I trying to say, Heller or Heck or any of those decide on a candidate. We have seen the governor now stand up and support Michael Roberson. But I think that's something we anticipated.
He is a Democrat. You don't expect any less from Brian Sandoval.
I'm certainly going to say that how they would do things, I would do them differently. I will say that. I don't agree with what they've done, and I would certainly have done it in a different way. But what I need to, for the people to understand is, first of all, we have a very serious situation in this country. I put out a bullet a while back, and I believe this wholeheartedly. The greatest threat to America today is not an ideological criminal sect. It is not Iran, it is not China, it is not Russia, it is not North Korea. The greatest threat to America today is a Constitution dismissive, ignorant, self-serving American armed with a vote. Because it is those voters upon whom the elite, the Republicans, the Democrats, they capitalize upon America. And I don't mean this in a negative way, because I fall into that, not having got
And you forgot one thing.
What's that?
Backed by the corrupted media.
Well, that's true.
I've been
That's true.
saying this for years. The worst enemy we have in this country nowadays is the media.
That's true. If we have a media that has gone the line of bias, if they are only focusing on candidates for their own undisclosed agenda,
Definitely.
then we have a problem. If they're being wide open like you are now, you're inviting anyone in that's willing to come in and answer the questions, that's the kind of media we need. Now granted, the media cannot go about interviewing 2,000 presidential candidates, but what I've done.
Yeah, but there's no 2,000 presidential candidates in Clark County.
No,
So
there's not.
they not all gonna come here
No.
to Clark County. But we try to get, we even tried to get what's his name? The Cuban guy?
Rubio.
Marco Rubio, and all we did is to get him to call the FBI on us.
Well, it kind of doesn't surprise me. I was actually in Florida and voted for Marco Rubio back when he ran, and I think it was in the 2010 election. That would have been the 2010 election. I was still a resident of the state of Florida, and I voted for Mr. Rubio. And one of the big reasons I voted for Mr. Rubio at that point in time was because he stood up and applied over and over again that he would support the fair tax when he got to office. All that meant was him going and doing like everyone else as a senator or a congressman that signed in. By the way, we got 82 congressmen and senators signed on as co-sponsors to that legislation today. He refused to do it. So what that told me was that he was speaking to the audience, telling us what we wanted to hear while he had his own agenda. So when Mr. Rubio was running for president, if people asked me about him, I said, well, I would certainly never vote for the man because I consider him to be dishonest.
I've never seen anybody turn so quickly.
Yeah.
And so obviously, when he got to Washington, he immediately was in Schumer's pocket, and he just completely lost all.
Maybe his emblem was a little bigger than
Maybe, but I've never seen anyone turn quite so quick.
Well, one of the things that we really have to look at, and you need to look at this on every level with candidates, and you can really look at their platform and what they're saying in their candidacy. Are they really going there to do something for the people? Because if they're going there to do something for the people, then they would have done like I have. They've researched the problems, they've come up with solutions, and they're not waiting to get to office. I already have a piece of legislation in Congress today, which is a new global strategy in order to best engage with the ideological, criminally disposed threat we have. I sent that up to Congressman Heck in early March. He liked my proposal. It was in full draft bill format, which I can write bills. I know how to do that. And he liked that so much that he's sharing it with the House Armed Services Committee and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. So what I'm saying is that when people decide that they're going to run for office, you can really look at them and say, are they going there for a career? Are they going there as one of the stepping stones in a progression of a longer, higher elevated political career? Or are they really going there with ideas, ready to go and make those happen now, even maybe before they get into office? And those kind of things stand out to me.
Let me ask you this few questions, because we only 4 days from the primary election in Nevada. And I would not ask you this question when you was running for president, because regardless of what Mr. Obama said, the president have no say so in anything unless you use the cell phone and the pen. But what is your position with immigration?
Position on immigration, very easy. I've written a draft piece of legislation called the American Immigration Reform Plan. And what that plan entails is actually a two-part. First of all, is we have to implement our laws again. Every political party has failed the American people by not imposing the laws, making those laws apply that we already have in place. They've decided to go in whatever direction they went to meet their own personal agenda. And that's every president, okay, since this has been a problem in this country.
Yeah, but the president have nothing to do. The president don't have the power to change the immigration. The Congress has
They do,
the power.
but under the Constitution in Article 2 that describes the executive office, he is to carefully, or how do they say, I want to say carefully, he is to enforce the laws of the United States.
Of course.
And he has failed to enforce, not just President Obama, but Bush before him, Reagan, Bush, whomever it may be, they all failed. They all
Definitely, I
failed.
agree with
Right.
that 100%, and I believe that that is the problem that we have nowadays.
Yes.
We have the laws, so we don't need to do any reform or any other changes in the immigration. We got the laws. All you gotta do is enforce the law.
That's exactly right.
And I have wrote many times about that. Why don't you follow the same laws that they have in Mexico? I mean, that is
Those are more
stronger.
strict, yes,
That's
yes.
stronger. And then they come over here and they demand. Like they have the right to demand anything. You know, it's like people go to jail and then inside the jail they're gonna demand better food. And you know, you can't demand when you have no rights.
I understand exactly what you're saying. And you know, going back to what you said, I'm going to do about immigration or would do, like I said, it's a two-part plan. The first part is to restore immigration law enforcement. And how do we do that? I have two strategies called physical restraint and opportunity restraint. Now, under physical restraint, that's things like what Donald Trump is saying, we need to build a wall. Well, you got to build a wall 100 feet up and you got to build a wall 100 feet down. Let's don't forget that tunneling is a big issue too when we're talking about illegal immigration in this country. So it's not just building a wall, but you got to go down too.
Yeah.
Now, do I say we need to build a wall from one end of the nation to the other? Absolutely not. That's a tangible item. We can also do it through intangible measures. I said I'm into radar and infrared and all those other things earlier. Those are other mechanisms that we have for being able to detect the individuals as they attempt to cross. But once they do come across, we need to make sure that they're properly returned to the country that they come from. Now that's the physical restraint. What things do we do? And I don't want to do it as the federal government going to the states saying this is how you're going to do things as the president does now, or how you're not going to do things. What I want to do is go to the governors of the states, with the exception of maybe California, who refuses to do anything in terms of immigration and controlling it, but is to go to work with the states and say, okay, you guys are the smartest ones. You know what's going on your borders. Let us work with you as opposed to me telling you how things are going to be done, and let's get this under control. Now the other one is opportunity restraint, and opportunity restraint is one of those things that people don't talk a whole lot about. When we're talking about illegal immigrants coming to this country, or people that came here legally and overstayed their visa, they stayed here because
It's still illegal.
That's right. There's opportunity here. That's why they stayed here. Well, it takes two parts for that to come into play. First is somebody seeking opportunity, and the other is somebody giving them opportunity. So under opportunity restraint, what I'm saying is individuals, municipalities, maybe even an entire state, when we look at California, is we're going to put sanctions on you if you're a state, and if you're an individual, you're going to incur both criminal and potentially civil penalties for having hired or provided safe harbor to an illegal immigrant in this country.
Don't you think in most cases these people don't care about the consequence?
In some cases, that's true. But if you own a business and you're failing to comply with a much stricter E-Verify program, you can lose your entire
I have
business.
said that a million
It's
times.
enforcement.
Go after the unions and go after the hotel in Las Vegas.
The biggest problem, though, you have a D next to your name, and the facts support the fact that 60, 70, 80% of these illegal immigrants or whoever's coming into this country are tending to vote liberal. So you have a whole party that doesn't want any enforcement.
Because
So
I
you're
tell
never gonna
you,
get
my
enforcement.
point is,
Just never gonna get
my
it.
point is that the union, because they have the tendency right away to blame the hotels, the casinos, because they are the one with the money. You know, every time the casino, they got plenty money. Let's ask the casino. They are businesses like any other. They pay taxes, bad, good, small, more, whatever the reason. They pay what they are told to pay. And I believe if they're gonna ask the casinos because they got plenty money, they can ask Denny's Corporation, they can ask Walmart, they can ask any other company that is making money in Nevada. But the point is, the union is the one that lie to those casinos by telling them that those people are legal in this country, and there's a lot of, and I would say easy 39% of the employees in the casinos nowadays are illegals, and at least in the lower rank of kitchen workers, all those things, and those are the people that Harry Reid and the unions use when they want to have a parade or they want to have a protest or everything like that. With the help of the media, we're going back again, and the reason that I insist in the media is because now the media is upset with Donald Trump because he said they are sleazy and they are corrupted. It is the truth. I've been saying that for 18 years, since my day. Why do you think Las Vegas Tribune exists? Because the corruption of the media. They kiss the butt of the politicians, and when they cannot get them, they start criticizing that politician. They are a double enemy, a double, what do you call that? A double,
Double-sided
a
sword.
double agent.
Double agent.
A double
I
agent.
see.
They in your side when it's convenient for them, and and I believe that they need to go after those unions that allow those illegal people to work.
But
And
who's
then-
gonna go after them? Who's gonna go after them?
Let me say this, I said I had two parts to
Yeah,
the Immigration
go ahead.
Reform Act. The second part of that is a path to citizenship for those that have well assimilated to our society and have nothing more than maybe a simple misdemeanor on their record. It also means emptying out our jails, by the way, too, and sending individuals back to the countries. If the countries refuse to accept those that are here illegally, then we sanction those countries. That's a way of being able to get them returned. Now, when I'm talking about a path to citizenship, it's actually an 8-year program, and it's all written down in detail. And just to cover the parts of very basic parts and pieces, first of all, there is a 6-month registration period where you go in and you register. When you register, you'll receive not a Social Security card, but what's called an AIR card, an American Immigration Reform card. You can use that card to get work. You can use that card for emergency services at the hospital, but you are not going to be entitled.
We can do that with bank robbers. We can do that with bank robbers. We can use that with child molester. We can. Oh, don't do it anymore, sweetheart. Here, look at these people over there. And I don't know what city it is now. The guy raped a woman. I forgot what city was it. He only got 6 months.
Right, I saw that.
Where was that?
I didn't think it was San Francisco, I'm not
No,
sure.
No, it wasn't there. I can't remember now exactly where it was. But
Boston, maybe.
within the program, because we have literally generations here now that have come here and been a part of this country, when I look at it from a prudent, a moral, an ethical, and economical position, I think a pathway to citizenship is right. But there's still other things about this. One of the things, too, though, is over a 3-year period, you're going to have to provide restitution to the American people for having violated the law. And how do we do that? We do that through the tax system. If we get the fair tax, you don't get the family consumption allowance. If we still have an income tax system, then you don't get the deductions and exemptions that other people get that are legally residing in this country today. Now, if you meet all the criteria, and I've got it all laid out, that's just the basic stuff. If you meet it all for 5 years, at the end of a 5-year period, you may then apply for citizenship. And by the way, all the other people that are illegal, we need to speed up their process.
But let me ask you something.
Yes.
how is the country gonna benefit with that?
How the country's going to benefit with that?
How?
I think the country would be torn apart if we really tried to take and eliminate, what is the number? Anywhere between 12 and 30 something million people they talk about in this country today.
Yeah.
You know, those are people too that have, I have great concerns about what kind of armed resistance that they would put up, because many of them are so well established. The only thing then that they have left in their life is their lives. Would they be willing to give their life to protect what they have in this country? What they have established 20, 30, 40 years maybe that they've been here illegally. That's a great concern. Not only that, you talk about the hotels down here. How quick do you think we'd be able to start providing services again in a hotel down here if in fact, I don't know that that's true, that there were 30% of them illegal. Take a look at all the other services around the country. I think a lot of businesses would go.
Oh, no, I don't know either. I
Okay.
assume.
Okay.
I assume
understand,
it's 30 to 35%
Right.
of the hotel employees and the lower jobs.
Right.
You know,
So-
housekeeping, dishwashers,
Right.
kitchen workers, all that stuff. I assume it's.
Here's one of the key things too about this program, is that we want to make sure that the illegal resident, as I like to call them too, because they might have come here legally in terms of immigrant,
But they are
now
illegal.
they're illegal
Yeah.
residents.
Right.
Okay. One of the things I want to impress upon them too is that the things we value most are the things that we work hardest for. So if we sacrifice, if we make restitution, we feel like we've accomplished something, and we want to protect then that citizenship that we may one day get. In other words, we feel like we have a greater reward out of having made some sacrifice. Now here's the most important thing. Here's the most important thing, is that if you violate any of the requisites that I have of the program, you're deported. Not only that, but after 5 years or after you've received your citizenship and it's discovered that you were in violation, you defrauded the program, you now can be sent away. So what this means is those that are here illegally that can get into this program are going to want to protect their status in that program by telling us who is now coming here illegally that cannot be a part of that program. Now, some people can agree or disagree
I disagree
with
with you.
But I'll tell you
disagree
this.
because I believe that in order for you to be an American citizen, you have to respect, if not love, respect the country.
And I think
That's what he's asking.
That's what I'm saying.
And respect. You know, I saw the greatest picture on TV the other day. They were burning the American flag and they were waving the Mexican flag.
That is a non-well assimilated individual. That individual needs to be deported if they're here as an illegal resident. They have clearly demonstrated a disrespect for the people of this country, not only for the people living here today, but for those patriots that died to create this country and have died since in order to keep this country intact. That's the kind of individual I do not want here. But those that are here, that are well assimilated, okay, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know, I cannot fault an individual. If I was living in Mexico and eating out of the garbage, and I saw an opportunity to get across the wall of the United States and come here, would I come here? You bet I would come
Can't
here.
blame him.
I had nothing to live for there. But if I come here, I may have done it illegally, but if I come here and conduct myself just as good, let's face it, we got some American citizens out there, as far as I'm concerned, don't live up to the standards of
That's
those
for
that
sure.
came here illegally.
That's
If you
for sure.
came here illegally and want to conduct yourself as an American citizen and you've done well and continue to do well, we're not just giving it to you. You've got to continue to do well for another 5 years. You've got to make the restitution that I talk about, and then you have the opportunity to come on
Well,
board.
I'm sorry, maybe because I got it too easy. I came here from day one legally. I came in, you're too young to remember, a Pan American airline. But I came here sitting in a Pan American airline with a visa attached to my passport. I didn't have to suffer what all these people suffer. But I believe that it's the same problem when you rob a bank, when you cross the street in the middle. Look how many people die every single day because they cross the street where they don't not supposed to cross, and the police cannot blame anybody and cannot punish anybody because the person who did commit the illegal act It's dead.
Yes, but you as a legal immigrant coming here, you didn't have any restitution to go through. You did not have the other requisites of the program I put together that you have to comply with. But because they did come here illegally, they now have to go through a penalty phase, a probation phase, in order to satisfy the requirements to meet that resident.
Okay.
And the program, here's the nice thing about the program. You got from 5 years to the 8-year point to complete it. If at the 8-year point you're here as an illegal resident, and unless you're in a coma in a hospital, you're gone. You're going back to wherever we can identify best that you came from. The nice thing about this, Roland, is we constantly hear our congressman, our president talk about we need to do this, we need to do that. Now we got the state of California pretty much almost declaring their own sovereignty against our federal laws on immigration. What we've got to have is someone that will stand up and present a program and say, this makes sense. It's prudent, it's ethical, everybody wins. We keep our economic system in place because we don't get rid of 30% of the country that works here today that may be illegal or whatever the case may be. And not only that, but they provide restitution back. They're contributing to the tax coffers through the program they provide, and they're doing that too as working citizens.
How do you plan to accomplish that?
I have to put it in his legislation. I have to put it in his legislation, and I have to sit in front of the public, sir, like I'm doing with you today, to try to build an argument that says, you know, we're going nowhere. Here's a plan that at least has an objective going somewhere.
Okay.
And I think that's what's important.
Let's go now to a different subject. Those famous transgender bathrooms.
Oh, okay. You wanted me to speak about the gender. Well, okay. I kind of put it like this. I personally don't want to go into a shower with a bunch of naked men standing around. I'm a man. I'm married to a woman. I've never had thoughts of being a transgender or homosexual in any way, shape, or form. But I don't like going into a shower that has a bunch of men. So I think you need to make a shower. No.
You've been in the service. I'm sure you got a
Yeah,
shower.
you're not following me.
Altogether.
You're not following me yet. Here's the next part of that. I want you to build me a separate shower. Not because I'm transgender, but because I feel hurt that I have to go in to a shower where there's a bunch of men. So I want the 4th shower and bathroom built.
Then where does that?
And then the 5th one for the women that don't like to be exposed among a bunch of other women. Here's my point. My point is that
Do you have a daughter, right?
I have a daughter, I have a
But
son.
she's older already.
Oh yeah, she's 37. I got grandchildren.
She's
Yeah,
an adult.
yeah, she's
You
an.
got any grandchildren?
I do have grandchildren.
Granddaughter?
I do have granddaughter.
You want your granddaughter to go to
No.
the bathroom with a guy with
No.
a mustache and a
No.
dress? And
No.
I tell you, I know transgenders. We have transgender in this show.
Right.
I have no problem with whatever you want to be in your life,
Right.
but as long as you keep your side and the other people keep their side.
Right, here's where I was going with this. Because I don't want to be showering with a bunch of men, I'm going to do that. Why am I going to do that? Is because everybody in life is going to expect to have some inconveniences. I'm inconvenienced because I'm having to go take a shower with a bunch of naked guys standing around. Same thing with those that want to identify as a transgender. You're going to have to expect some inconvenience in life. And that inconvenience in our society is that if you have a male appendage and you have been so classified as a male, you're going to use the male shower. If you're a female, you're going to use the female shower. There is a very small population out there that actually has both sexes on their body. Sometimes it shows up more as a male. And that, you know, we're going to have to reserve to that point in time. But when you walk in as a man into a female shower, and there's an obscenity law in that state in place, I think you should be arrested for exposing yourself. That's the bottom line. Because you have decided to think that your inconvenience is more important than the general population's inconvenience.
I tell you, my problem is not as much with the adult people. I think knowing women like I think I know women, there's a lot of women that will either walk out or ask the person, can you wait outside until I finish? I'm worried about children. They get intimidated when they see something like that.
Right.
They're not used to. But you know, the problem is that we are getting, I was listening to TV today, now there's some people that want the American flag to be taken out of the fire engines. I don't know how long they've been doing that, but I believe it's been a long time.
Well, I tell you what, I have seen one, and my wife heard me say something about, I thought that that flag needed to be removed. This is before that story came out.
Really?
That flag needed to be, and here's why though, sir. Because that flag was becoming tattered and dirty from the exhaust and everything else that was being kicked up on that flag. I haven't heard the whole story that the news is reporting. It could be that it's a really strong patriot that has brought the claim. I don't know yet, but brought the claim because that flag is, I don't think the firemen are trying to
But
disrespect
how long
it.
it's been in that truck?
Yeah, exactly. I think
Why now?
It could be a patriot saying, "Hey, that flag is too dirty, too tattered, and with you driving around with it like you're driving with it today, it shows a certain amount of disrespect for allowing it to get dirty. That flag is supposed to be high up on a pole above any other flag in this country. Period." And not in a position where it can be tattered and made dirty as it can on the back of a fire truck. Now, me personally, I'm okay with the small flags on the trucks. I really do. Because I know the heart of the people that put it there. Their heart is, I'm a patriot. I love my flag. I love my country, and I'm going to display my flag. But then you've got other people that are good patriots too that say, well, we appreciate that, but that flag is just getting too dirty on the back of that truck. And I did see one the other day that was tattered and dirty.
But how long do you think that flag has been waving?
It may have been waving there a while. I don't know, sir. I don't know. And I don't know what the condition was of that
No, the
particular
reason
flag.
I'm asking is because a lot of people have shown more respect and more love for the American flag after the 9/11. I don't know if that happened before the 9/11. I tell you the truth, I never pay attention to that until
Somebody makes it an issue. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I believe that I don't see anything wrong. The president had the American flag in front of the limousine.
Right.
And the Russian ambassador had the Russian flag in front of his limousine.
And
You
listen,
know.
I really have no problem with it as far as them putting the flag there. I'm just saying that may have been somebody else's point of view. My opinion is fly the flag back there if that's what the fire department or whomever wants to do. But once it does become tattered, or once it does become dirty, then in due respect to that flag, let's remove it and replace it with something that's a little bit more appropriate. And that could have been what the gentleman or whoever it was that reported that.
Or they can use a decal in the window and the door.
I saw that what you're talking about, and the reason that person mentioned for his policy or whatever he's trying is totally ridiculous. So I just
What was it?
I forget. It was so ridiculous. I just said this guy's a nut. Okay, he's one of these dividers, and that's the whole reason of the transgender bathroom is to divide the people,
Yeah.
divide and conquer. That's why these issues come up. We as the people have to say that's stupid and just say we're not going down.
I believe a part of
Forget
the
about it.
thing.
You know, you have to have common sense.
Correct me if
Yes,
you
sir.
think I'm wrong. Not that I'm wrong, but
No, just a different opinion. Yeah, I'm not gonna say you're wrong. Just,
Okay.
we have a different opinion,
Okay.
maybe. Okay.
The problem is these groups, these activists, pushing too much, pushing to see how far the government or how much the Constitution of the United States of America are gonna allow them to do that. We have gay people since I can remember. Since I was born, I know that there is gay people in the world, but I never thought in my whole life that two men or two women was gonna get married. You know, they push and they push and they push, and when you got a weak government, when you got a weak president pretending to be strong, that's what happened.
Well, one of the things I say, and that's an issue I've had to talk to, particularly on the gay marriage, and I think I put out a bullet that really kind of satisfied a lot of people on this issue, and that is that man can neither create, alter, or dissolve marriage, an institution reserved wholly to God. All that man can do is create instruments such as contracts that serve to the benefit of man, not to God. So as far as whether or not if that's a marriage, I'm going to leave that to God on the day of judgment when they arrive at that position in heaven, if they get that opportunity in the future. But until then, what I will do is stand by what I consider to be a constitutional approach to this, and that is to say that if a man and a woman have certain privileges by virtue of their living together under a contractual agreement. That contractual agreement is a marriage license. Two individuals, regardless of what they do in the bathroom, man and man, woman and woman, I see, in my opinion, from a constitutional perspective, no reason to not give them the same type of a contractual right so that one can make decisions for the other in case the other is on the deathbed.
I agree with that.
And I think, you know, in fact, one of the things I said was throw away the whole term marriage license. Because all it is an instrument. It's a marriage
That
license.
approach doesn't
Well,
divide the
that-
people.
that is
The
been
whole
my
thing is to
opinion
divide
all
the
along.
people.
Right.
And
It
it's
is.
controversy.
That's
It
been
is.
my
So
opinion all
purpose.
along.
Right.
The marriage
Divide and
license
conquer.
is just a piece of paper to fulfill the ego of society.
That is it.
I
That's
don't
it.
believe in marriages. And I wrote an article a long time when they started doing this same-sex marriage. I said, let them get married so they suffer the divorce when they finish loving each other. You know,
Right.
they got 4 cases in family court in Clark County now. And I tell you, one of the judges told me they are more evil and more, what is his
Vindictive.
vindictive than regular, well, not regular, I don't think they are irregular, but the man and a woman marriage or divorce, and they are very vindictive, a man and a woman getting a
Well, they're
divorce.
getting divorces now left and right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, one of the things too that I said when I was looking at it from the position of the military is that I think that you know, we're going to have more heterosexual than we're going to have homosexual marriages and unions out there, and we're going to have our greatest problems that will actually continue to exist more between the heterosexual marriages than the homosexual. One of the things we see is that certainly between a man and a woman, boy, the domestic violence is incredible in
Definitely.
the heterosexual. And we see death. I don't know what the statistics are, but I want to say that there's probably a lot more death if we took the same, if we could compare the numbers, we'd probably see a greater degree of extreme violence on the part of heterosexual couples than we see on homosexual couples. So, but that's kind of diverging from what we're talking about, and that's where I stand on the issue of marriage. I consider a marriage license is nothing more than a contractual agreement. The only one that I have to prove that I have a marriage and that accepts it as a marriage is my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, is God.
Are you married or
Married.
Or you legally?
No, I'm married.
You're legally married.
Oh, yes. I believe we're married. I have a marriage license.
You got a marriage license, okay. Now,
The short-sightedness and incompetency of some of our so-called leaders, like take Sandoval right now. He's kind of backing off the endorsement for Trump because of the comment about the judge. You have Ryan now going wishy-washy back and forth. That's not a leader, that's an idiot in my opinion. Because what the hell is Trump having to say about a judge, any comment he wants to make about a judge? Let me tell you something, more than 50% of the judges in this country are incompetent and they're biased. And they take all their baggage with them from home and they bring it to the bench. Are you kidding me? Wake up, Sandoval. Wake up, Ryan. It doesn't matter. But more important than that, you have your candidate. And you better get your ass behind him, no matter what. If that guy was a Democrat, do you think the Democrats would be picking on Trump and bringing up what he said about a judge or this or that? Hell no. We as Republicans got to realize we need some balls. And we need to stand behind our people. We need to be united and we need to march in lockstep like the Democrats do. They never throw anybody under the bus. And that's our first impression. Throw them under the bus, throw them under the bus. I mean, we're so weak. You know, the Democrats are despicable because they're so dishonest. They try to stay in power by lying to everybody. And the Republicans don't necessarily do that. But they just go along with whatever because they don't want to act like they're, you know, they're weak. They're weak. And it just makes me sick. I'll never support Ryan for anything ever again because of these comments he's making. And Gramnesty, whatever his name
because
is.
those
I
are
mean, Jesus,
people,
they're weak.
those are
They
people
don't
that
see.
playing the game so they can advance.
They're playing games.
in the political
Exactly.
life. You know, that's
You got to
all.
get this country together again, and we're going the wrong direction.
Well, I tell you, I have a couple of good videos out there that I encourage people to look at on my website at kerrybowers.com. And one of the things that I talk about in the closing of my video announcing my candidacy is I don't believe in the terms left, right, center, liberal, progressive, Democrat, Republican. We're in a nation that has a constitution. So you can only be one of two things. You can either be constitutional or unconstitutional. And one of the problems we're going to find, and we know that the Democrats have moved way away from that course that was laid down by our founders, but unfortunately, Republicans have moved very far to the left or right of that course, however you want to look at it. And any time that we've had Republicans in office at the president level, or a congression or a Congress that's made up of particularly Republicans, specifically majority Republicans, we have never turned back to course. At best, we have paralleled course, or in some cases, we've moved further from course, even when Republicans were in office. So what happens then is that the people in the Republican Party become very disillusioned. What do I believe? Where are we really going? What is my platform? Well, my platform is on 4 pages of parchment that's been supplemented by another 27 amendments out there. That is my platform only. When we talk about making a platform for the parties in this country, if we make things anything other than putting that document out there, then all we're doing is building for ourselves something other than following that.
The parties are unconstitutional.
That's exactly right.
I got to agree with him.
Yeah.
I have to agree with him.
My number one solution is you have to make them illegal organizations.
Well,
Any party.
we could certainly look at them from the standpoint, is there a constitutional party? If you're a constitutional party and you're following the Constitution, then you can't be illegal. You're following the law of the land.
They're not in the Constitution.
Yeah, yeah.
They were left to
Oh,
the
they're
states.
not, but I'm saying as a group, they can say, we're the Republican Party and the only platform we have is the Constitution. And I can't fault them for that.
Yeah, that's fine, but why do they?
And
have
then
to be a
anybody
party?
else, you can have a different party name and follow the same Constitution, or you
But
can
the
do
whole
something
makeup
else, but
of
then
the
it makes you
party,
unconstitutional.
what do they do? What do they do for us? What do they do for the voter, we the people? They do nothing. They only do for themselves.
I agree.
And that's why they should be illegal,
I
because
agree.
they're against the people.
I agree, and that's why I'm saying that the problem with the Republican Party today and why it's divided is because they have drifted from the Constitution course that was laid down. And until they get back to that course, it's
They've been
it's
bought and
like
paid
being
for by
adrift in a
special
sea with no
interests.
course. Yeah, you have no course to follow when you're out there. And everybody
Right.
makes their own decision, and we start coming up with arbitrary powers and arbitrary governing out there.
And people in power don't like the Constitution because the whole purpose of the Constitution was to limit their power.
Right.
So they don't like that.
Right.
They need to change that Constitution, that pesky little thing down there.
Right.
Because they want
well, take a
ultimate
look.
power.
Take a look too. When they talk about, we want people to go that'll work and shake hands across the aisle and compromise with each other. Well, let's think about that. What do those compromises amount to? Anytime today that Republicans and Democrats compromise with each other, I would venture to say the majority of that compromise is a compromise of the Constitution of the United States. Because what they have done is decided, well, we're going to drift off the Constitution. Republican steps in and says, well, I don't want to drift that far. Let's only go this far.
Right.
But we're still drifting from the Constitution.
Absolutely right. You're
So
absolutely right.
the only way that we're going to bring our party back together, bring our nation back together, is we have to get focused and driving down the same course. If we're not, then we're out on our own, going where the Constitution does not provide any
We're
provisions
going towards
for
the
safety
cliff.
in it. That's exactly right. And that's what we have today.
Yeah.
How are we going to fix that? That's going to be a very difficult thing. It's like trying to fix education. We always talk about we need more money for education. I don't care if you put $1 trillion in one school, you're not going to fix education.
We have, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. The only thing, because you've got a product walking in that front door every morning at 8 o'clock that's broken because he has or she has no discipline, no responsibility, no moral values coming out of the home that potentially is broken. It may even be broken, but still there can be moral values that's instilled in those children from those individual parents out there then. So you got a broken product coming in. They come into a school where the school is not allowed to provide discipline, that a teacher can't hug the child and show him some love and give him some attention. No, the broken product comes in, it stays broken throughout the day, it goes back home to another broken community. So the only way we're going to fix that is we've got to change our moral values. We have to change who we are as adults in raising our children. Then when we send a good product to school, give the teachers the opportunity to discipline them properly, as I was disciplined in school, and be able to show them the love and attention and affection. Those are the things that start changing. Is it going to be 100%? No. There's always going to be criminals. There have been since, Adam and Eve. One of their sons decided to kill the other. So, that's where we stand on that issue.
I'm going to ask you to give us your view of Tuesday's primary election.
Well, I think it's going to be an interesting primary. We're already starting at home to get some poll calls, coming from the national level as well as probably some being generated by the local candidates as well. I really don't know. I don't know what the results are going to be. I can hear what some people saying, as far as one candidate over the other, but one of the great concerns I do have is this, Roland, is that we do have 3 candidates out there that have been heavily targeted by each other or targeted by PACs.
In your district?
In my district, in my district. And because of that targeting, if one of those individuals does win, now we have just handed all kinds of fodder to the Democrat Party to stand up and engage those individuals on whatever these other individuals have provided in opposition against them. That's going to make a tough road for them to hold.
Well,
one of the things that I have said for myself, though, and this is one of the great things that I liked about my campaign, is that if I could go into a real debate, which I've never had an opportunity to do a real debate against a Democrat, having researched all those major issues, having come up with solutions.
she would not
destroy.
Yeah, I would be able to engage them.
Right.
And engage them on in a very fundamental, economic, constitutional way. But I got to tell you, the bottom line is this, and I talked before about the voters. A responsible government is a reflection of the electorate. So too is an irresponsible government.
That's right.
And it's unfortunate, but it is exactly what socialism tries to build, and that is an ignorant population.
Yeah.
Not ignorant because they don't have the mental capacity. That word sounds bad, but it's not really as bad as what we think. You can just be ignorant by virtue of you're focused in another direction even. My life doesn't allow me the time to look at politics as much as I would like to. My life is focused over here. So we have a certain ignorance just in one area. It doesn't mean we're an ignorant individual all across the board. But what we do see is that by the type of commercials that are going on TV today, is that those who are using those are trying to capitalize on the ignorance of the electorate.
Yeah, that's right.
To give them only this little bit of message and not encouraging them to go and look at the websites of these individuals and see exactly what they're saying and where they want to go.
So you'll come out of the nomination process, hopefully with the nomination, because you're the cleanest that's not been destroyed by the process.
That's right.
So you would be the best candidate to go to the general election.
I would think so. I want to say I consider myself the best candidate just because of what I've researched and what I've put together as a path forward. And already have outlined in legislation and in fact in working legislation that's there in
How many
Congress
do that?
today.
None.
Nobody does that. In fact, one of the things we found on the road when I was a presidential candidate and talking with congressional candidates that would come up to our booth, for example, when we were in New Orleans at the Republican Leadership Conference exhibiting my presidential campaign was, why do you want to give so much details? My strategist says don't give the details. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Don't give the details. Only give a little bit of information. Why is that? Because they know that in most cases the public will not be accountable to themselves to be responsible enough to investigate each one of the candidates. So only give them a little bit that looks good and hope they bite on that hook, line, and sinker.
We hope, or at least I hope, that this election will be an example of the interest of the American people and rebuild this country.
Yes, sir.
Because this is not the country that I came to.
The movement seems to be going to outsiders, which is the right thought process, because the insiders haven't worked. It's a broken system.
We cannot be the police for the universe. We cannot be the country that's going to feed and protect every other country. We need to protect ourselves first. And every time I go through that Las Vegas Boulevard annoyance and I see all those people that have served the country with sacrifice for the benefit of the country, sleeping in the sidewalk because they have no whatsoever any other way to be, it's really a shame. It's
It
really
is.
sad. And the government, I told the government, I've been in front of the county commission a couple of times, and they should be ashamed of seeing that thing instead of that walk around like a big shots. You know, I believe that the people, it should not be any reason to have homeless in this country. But the people that serve the country, they fight for us, then they try to give us the democracy and I said very clearly, even with my accent, democracy, don't confuse, because that's the problem with a lot of people. They confuse democrat with democracy. It's two different things.
Yes.
You know, people have to learn that we have to take care of our own first. I don't believe that we need to go anyplace else to be charitable without and having people. You know, it's like me bragging over here. Oh, I got a steak, I got this, and my family's home eating leftover from yesterday. You know, I don't believe in that. If I don't have money to take home, I don't need, even if I've been invited 17 times.
Understand.
You know, that's the way I am. I wanted to thank you for being here. And if you want to come back, all you got to do is call. And if we got a guest, we can record you later and put you the next day. We're going to run this radio show. How many times more, Mr. Producer?
Yeah, we can keep running it. We can
need
run it
to-
every
we
day,
need to
a
keep
couple
running
times.
Your interview. This, I think it was not as good as the one you did with Ed. You know, you impress everybody in this building when you
Well,
did
this was very good too, I think.
Yeah, I told him your questions were very good, so hopefully my answers were equally as good.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And I appreciate and good luck to you Tuesday. Hopefully we're going to have a real congressman and, you know.
Thank you, I appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Producer. We run, what, 5 minutes over?
No, a couple minutes is all. We're good.
We're clear?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Roland. I really do appreciate the opportunity to come out and spend